Hello, everyone. Welcome to another match of Link to the Past Randomizer. We've got Group N, lower bracket, final game. This is an elimination match, so whoever wins this will enter into the main tournament. Whoever loses it will, unfortunately, that will be the end of their tournament for them. And Flipheal was able to take game 2 yesterday to even up the series. werfjig, of course, had taken game 1. And it was a pretty close race yesterday, too. So hopefully we'll get another one from these guys. I'm joined in the booth here with Esmar. Esmar, how are you doing today?
I'm doing pretty well. Yeah, I mean, especially given that we've got a game 3. You gotta love them. Also of note is the fact that both of these runners were sent to the losers bracket by the same runner, rather than this being a salty run back situation. So that's always kind of nice because you get to see how you get to see a new matchup for one. We got PD Piranha on Flipheal's side, and I think that's what is that? I forget exactly
Modern
what
Link.
each Link palette, Modern Link. I forget exactly which one's which sometimes. We got Bombos to start out. That's going to be potentially useful later on. I mean, usually you don't like to use Bombos if you don't have to. You prefer Ether if you want a quick clear early on, say in like Mini Moldorm without a sword or something. Well, you can't really use it without a sword, but I digress. Bombos, however, has an extra fast animation. Quick map check. I think that's 2 pendants and a crystal on desert.
Green on Hera, red crystal on desert, and blue pendant on Eastern. And speaking of Eastern, we have a bow, so now we can get that blue pendant if we want to, though I doubt that will be a rushed play.
Yeah. The bow is definitely a nice weapon to see. This is standard hard for anybody who's tuning into this tournament for the first time. That means a standard start where we go through the opening sequence. The swords are randomized, but given that we do have to go through, the tutorial dungeon, the uncle does guarantee you a weapon of some sort. So some item that can destroy enemies, the uncle can give you one of those. And we get the bow, which is one of the better ones to see.
Yeah, the bow is nice to see. It's really easy to get through escape without really taking too much damage because you can shoot them from afar and kill them in one shot. And it makes it easy to farm enemies because you always want to try to farm some enemies to get a bomb. We've seen from the guards, they've dropped a heart so far, and I haven't been able, I've seen a heart twice. I don't know if it was one on each screen or not, so we'll have to wait a little bit, see if we see a fairy. If we see a fairy from the guards, then they could give us bombs, but if there's 2 hearts in a row, then there will not be any bombs today from the guards.
Yeah, the one thing about the bow is you do have a limited number of arrows, but that's usually only a problem in 2 places in the run. Your arrow count is when you've got that was a fairy, and a full magic drop. So I think that's bombs possible.
Yep, bombs will be the next drop for Philpeel would be a red rupee and then an 8-bomb pack from the guards or the snake. So we'll probably want to kill some snakes in that snake room.
But as I was saying, the only places that you really use a lot of arrows is going to be the Armos fight and Vitreous, depending on what you've got going on equipment wise. But other than that, unless you're a new runner and you're doing arrow escape for the first time, for example, and you might die, then you might have to worry about refilling your quiver. But these runners are not going to have to worry about that. 30 is plenty for almost anything they would need.
Yeah, yesterday actually in their race, they both had a bow start and they just got such bad luck on farming that they both used all of their arrows and escaped farming rats, and only one of them was able to actually get the bomb drop from this same drop pack that the guards have today.
Interesting that werfjig is now in sync with Flipheal, despite having that slight time disadvantage from the map check earlier. So looks like Flipheal's lost a tiny bit of time here in this escape sequence. Still both on pretty expectable pace here.
Yeah, Flipheal did a map check upon exiting the uncle area.
Oh yeah, that makes sense. So that's some lost time. Very technically.
Chat asking about regular bow damage compared to sword. The regular bow in general does master sword damage. It depends on, there are certain enemies where it's not the same, like for instance Armos Knights and the Lamolas, but generally master sword and bow are close damage.
Yeah, it's kind of contrary to what a lot of people probably would first suspect is, damage isn't it's not sort of like a set thing. It's got tables per enemy. Like each enemy has their own damage table, and they take different amounts of damage from different things. And there are some things that are consistent throughout most enemies, but then there are a couple of weird exceptions. The Henoxes, the bomb throwing Cyclopses, for example. I think they take extra damage from a gold sword spin or something.
Yep, they're the only enemies that take more from a gold sword spin than a gold sword slash. And we see Flipheal get his 8 bombs there. But as you were mentioning, yeah, there are some weird exceptions, like the light world bosses with the Master Sword. It tends to be a little bit counterintuitive. A lot of them take the same damage from this.
Mirror.
Too. Yeah, that mirror and escape, it's normally really helpful, but this isn't one of the chests where they really like to see it. You like to see that out down in Zelda Cell, but getting it early nonetheless, very nice.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, at the same time, yeah, getting that mirror early is very interesting. Oh, nice pumping there from werfjig. That's very smooth. It's very, very nice to watch. Just taking that perfect line.
Yeah, that's how you know these runners are practiced in this escape sequence, doing every little optimization they can do to save time.
Yeah, and Randomizer being a game of, where the items show up, as, we see that sword showing up, at the higher levels, the execution, you'd think it wouldn't necessarily play as big of a part, but, it really does, because it allows you to sort of give yourself more insurance the better your execution is. So, if you've got sloppy rooms all over the place, then if you want to keep up with somebody who's playing well, you have to take chances. And so, conversely, the better you play, the less chances you have to take to stay ahead. So there's a large element of luck, but there's definitely a very... Ooh, 2 swords right off the bat. Yeah, I think I've made my point on that, so I'm not going to belabor that sentence for too much longer.
Yeah, there's very good, very nice escape. Both the sword and the mirror. So
yeah, it was a little slower than usual, but we did have some farming for those bombs, so that's sort of to be expected. Usually you see it around the 5-minute mark. You'd be leaving that escape, but given that farming that we had to do, this is pretty standard.
Yeah, you'll definitely sacrifice that 15 seconds just to make sure you get a bomb through the first time, because you do not want to have to walk through without the glove again to go back.
Yeah, you might consider it if you see the glove in the escape sequence, and there's a bomb, but you might have to grind for it. Then you might leave it, just come back later. But if you don't already have the glove, you want to make sure you can get that.
We're seeing just 10 arrows and rupees in the Lost Woods, so nothing yet here to give the runners any option, basically, but go down to Kakariko.
Now, this is getting a little ahead of ourselves here, but given that we have Bombos, so what do you think are the chances that we end up seeing logical Bombos Ice Palace? We're going to have to see both glove upgrades and the flippers, and of course the Moon Pearl before that can happen, but given that we have it early, it's on the table.
Yeah, generally, when you get the medallions earlier, those medallions tend to be important, because if you think of it this way, say you got Quake Medallion, you don't need that for anything. Well, then it can be placed anywhere. It can be placed in Ganon's Tower, it can be placed inside Turtle Rock, so there's just less places to put it. Where if you need Bombos to do Ice Palace or to do Misery Mire, then it can't be placed in Ganon's Tower, because you need it to be Misery Mire. So oftentimes the ones that show up early tend to make an appearance.
Yeah, it's not an ironclad rule, but it's a rule of thumb.
And we get the hook shot in the back of Blind's Hut, which is always a nice item to have. It lets you get around earlier, opens up some chests on when you get to the mountain. It'll make the mountain a more lucrative option. So just very nice to get right now.
Yeah, and speaking of the mountain, since we do have the lamp, that does make a mountain climb possible. Also worth noting, Aga 1 is already in logic.
Yeah, definitely our runners are hoping that they can escape that fate, but when it's already in logic, it's definitely on your mind.
Yeah, that's really early to have all of the items for Aga, because especially without a sword start, you have to find 2 swords and the lamp, or 1 sword, the cape and the lamp. And all of those items can be so unnecessary that it's easy for them to be locked behind other things. So them showing up early can be a sign of that. We do have all of CAC yet to do. We'll see how it plays out. If we see the boots, or the Moon Pearl. That can be something very very interesting for the implications of this seed in terms of wizard defeating.
Yeah, and some other harbingers of Aghanim early are the hookshot and the bow, actually, because if you get the bow, then you can get more chests in pod if it's bow locked. So when you get Aghanim, you don't just only have 2 checks available. Or the hookshot does the same sort of thing, giving you the West Dark World if you get a glove, a flipper, or a hammer.
Yeah, you know, I don't think either runner is going to be in any hurry to rush Aga early until we see the Moon Pearl. It's always possible for the Moon Pearl to be on Pyramid Ledge, but in terms of trying to suss out Naga seed and get there early, you don't want to count on the Moon Pearl on Pyramid Ledge. If you're doing it early, you want to already have that Moon Pearl. Otherwise, you keep looking.
Yeah, the only exception would be if you got your boots early and saw a nice item.
Yeah, that would be the other option. We do see our first green 20 that I've noticed on the race game.
So probably a bow or an armor upgrade there.
Yes, this is hard item pool, meaning that only a limited number of certain items are going to be available. Only 1 bow, only 1 mail upgrade, by which I mean no mail upgrades. We just have the green mail the whole time. So have that to look forward to. And only, I think, up to 14 hearts total.
Yep.
And no gold sword. So just the 3 swords.
Yeah, trying to sort of mimic what you would experience if you were to try to do a speed run of this game. That would be the loadout you would get on standard route, with a few extra safeties, like a few extra bottles and half magic, which can sometimes be picked up as safeties, but not generally.
Yeah, it also kind of simulates the jet seed experience without actually needing to have a jet seed, because that's one of the consequences of finishing a seed fast is you usually have less equipment. I actually really like the reduced item pool. Nobody really likes the reduced item functionality, but I think the pool is it has a lot of synergy with the way that Rando naturally works. Because it's the same. It doesn't really change the game. You just end up with less stuff. Doesn't make anything harder to find. Doesn't make anything harder to use. You just don't end up with stuff, which could happen anyway.
Yeah, and it kind of incentivizes you to try to be efficient with how many locations you check, because you're not going to go. You don't have the same sort of value, like, oh, I can go get something else.
There's a glove. That's step 1 for avoiding Aga.
Yeah, and it's a pretty big step in this particular seed, because with that glove, we now have full logical access to the entirety of Light World Mountain, because we have the mirror and the hookshot.
Yes, we could already go up and get that green pendant and turn that in before we hit a pod eastern area, if we really wanted to. And with the hookshot, there's the possibility of having a really quick Tower of Hera with the Hera pot. So that actually probably won't be that wouldn't be too unusual for us to see, as they're passing through that area anyway. You dip into Hera, may as well clear it and get that green pendant.
Yeah, I think
depending.
So one thing you could see is maybe the runners they could do back of Saha's hut, and then by the time they get up to Tower of Hera, they'll basically only have Eastern and Tower of Hera available. And if they're trying to avoid Aghanim, maybe then that makes the Tower of Hera more appealing. But then seeing the Titan's Mitts now, maybe that changes your mind, because now
for sure
Moon Pearl.
Yeah, we need the Moon Pearl, but yeah, I guess my point with that is that's one of the very few circumstances where it's not a huge pain in the ass to go and get that green pendant and turn that in. It's actually relatively convenient. We are seeing some divergence. Flipheal looks to be going up the mountain. I wonder if he's gonna check the lumberjack just in case. Since he's in the area, I wouldn't be surprised. But yep, looks like he's going for that. Whereas werfjig is going over towards the eastern palace area. werfjig is going to get more checks sooner. But there's obviously more checks up on the mountain than there are right back here.
So I like what werfjig's doing here. Probably just going to do Saha's hut and then save and quit, because if you find your Moon Pearl here in Saha's hut, it's just such a big advantage, because you'll get to check so many extra things on the mountain.
It's a common rookie mistake to underestimate how fast that those 3 checks are. They're they're really quick. They feel like they're kind of out there because it's a few screen transitions away. You go from the middle of the map all the way to the east side, but as far as density versus time, it's actually really good. Flipheal falls down a hole in the mountain. Very it's a trademark. We'll call it a trademark, I guess. I don't know. He's doing something. Honestly, probably just you know, thinking about something else, maybe looking at his tracker or something. It's you know, you're autopiloting in those caves. They're dark. You know.
Yeah, definitely understandable in like this sort of race. And we also saw just 10 arrows from the old man. Flipheal's going to go over, and I like this play, to go over and do East Death Mountain first. First of all, there's a chance you get the hammer over here and you can walk over to the Tower of Hera. Secondly, you'll kind of know whether or not to dip Hera here, because if you go over here to check all these East checks first, then like if you get the Moon Pearl, you can just discard doing Tower of Hera right away. But if you come up pretty empty here, then Tower of Hera looks to be a more appealing play.
Yeah, it makes more sense to go and check those, you know, those what do I want to call them, left side checks first if you don't have the mirror, because then you just sort of check them on the way over, and you know, that's that. You know what's up there. You can get to it pretty easily. Just jump down and go over to the right side. But if you have the mirror, then you sort of, if you're going up there, then you kind of want to mirror up there and check Tower of Hera, and you sort of can get suckered into that. And Paradox Cave, as you can see, has a bunch of chests in it, and we like those. Ooh, bad boulders for werfjig.
Yeah, luckily you're going to be able to just save and quit up here. But we see that Tempered Sword there already.
All three
so
swords
very nice.
already. Almost sub 15 minutes, and we're already as you know, well equipped for the Ganon fight as we're gonna need to be.
Yeah, we also saw 2 fetch quests in Paradox Cave, getting both our powder and our shovel.
Okay, interestingly, the powder is ooh, man, another death. See, taking 1 is fine because you can just save and quit. Taking 2, yeah, you're giving time away there. That hurts for werf.
Yeah, the dead rock, rolling rock combo can just be so annoying, especially when you're only on 5 hearts like these runners.
Right, and that's sort of one of the things that sometimes sort of comes up and tricks you is, you know, law of averages, right? Most of the time when you have mountain access, it'll be a little bit later in the seed. So when it happens a little bit unusually early, you can sometimes be a little unprepared for just how little room for error you have and how many hits you can take.
Flipheal finishing out the east side of Death Mountain is going to now go back over and check the west side, and we'll see if he decides to go into Tower of Hera after seeing.
Yeah, we are running out of checks. We've got Agina's Cave. We've got we do have the bottle that we haven't turned in yet, if I recall. I think we got our first one after CAC.
Yeah.
And then there's the Eastern Palace dip, unless I said that one already. And shovel, yes. So we've got a couple of things that are kind of unattractive, but we don't have the Moon Pearl yet, so you know, there's a very little chance that we're gonna have to go fight Aga.
Yeah, I would expect both these runners to just, if Aga ends up being required, it would probably be a last location.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, if it's Moon Pearl on Pyramid, you can bet your bottom dollar neither of these runners are gonna get it early. You know, it's gonna be last location for both of them. So and that's something they're going to both be aware of too, so there's not necessarily going to be that, you know, it does suck to see it, but it's not going to be, oh god, what if my opponent's ahead sort of thing. You know, maybe they big-brained it, but they probably didn't.
And we see the big key down here, so we won't have to go into the basement to get it, which is nice because it's a pendant. You don't want to spend too much time in here.
Yeah, the pendant, and you can skip it with the Hera pot, which we're going to see Flipheal do, most likely. But if you don't have the big key, then you do have to leave behind the big chest if it's an item.
Yeah, and having already gotten the basement, feeling pretty good about being able to clear this out pretty quick.
Jay Coper in chat pointing out that Super Bunny actually is possible here for these runners. They could pick up that portal on the right side and Super Bunny into the, you know, eponymous Super Bunny cave.
Yeah, it definitely could, though. Neither of these runners elected to do that. We did see Flipheal get that bomb Hera pot very nicely. He's going to go and clear out the upper levels of Tower of Hera.
Yeah, I do think the value of doing Super Bunny is a little lower if, you know, you're in that Moon Pearl Hunt mode. Because very little of what you find in there is going to make any immediate difference.
Yeah, especially since these runners both already have 2 medallions, so the extra value of checking the Turtle Rock medallion is not especially large there. But we also got the boots from Flipheal in the big chest of Tower of Hera, so that'll be really nice for general mobility and also give us extra checks.
If we hadn't already checked Lumberjack, that would be very interesting to me right about now, because the boots are needed to pick up the item on Lumberjack. However, we did check it. Pretty sure we didn't need it. I actually didn't notice what it was.
It's a piece of
there's our green pendant. So yeah, that's actually a fairly nice mountain climb here. And Flipheal gets sort of the added bonus of being able to wrap that in with Saha's closet. werfjig is going to have to take a separate trip over there. But that does mean Flipheal's probably going to get suckered into Eastern Palace.
Yeah, it looks like he's going to elect to do those quick 2 boost checks of King's Tomb and Bonk Rocks before heading over to Eastern, probably trying to want to avoid going into Eastern if he doesn't have to.
Yeah, and following that logic makes a lot of sense, especially, you know, with King's Tomb here, you need both glove upgrades and the boots. So, let's see if... Nope, those 10 arrows are not a crucial item. werfjig having a little bit of a slow Harapot setup. The bomb setup is finicky but consistent.
You definitely have to be pretty confident in your ability to pull this off to do it when you get the big key outside of the basement. Because when the big key's in the basement, it's a huge time save. It's like 1.5 minutes to be able to do the Harapot. When you already have the big key in hand, though, it's probably about 15 seconds.
Yeah, and it is very nice that we got a item on our other chest down there, because that means that you know, this is pretty much ideal. You know, you go up. You don't have to worry about opening anything. You go down, drop, then you've got both items. You just get out. Flipheal not finding too much in those boots checks, but still happy to have them. Yeah,
we're down to, we've got Agena, we've got Eastern Palace, we've got Green Pendant, Shovel, and Sick Kid. So it looks like Flipheal's going to go over, do Sick Kid, and then probably maybe go down to the Shovel. Could also save and quit from here.
Yeah, I'd think a save and quit and going over there from Link's house would actually be a little bit faster. And just in terms of screen transitions, because it's what? 1 to get out of Link's house, 1 to go over the screen, 1 to go up.
Yeah,
maybe
it's hard
2. Maybe it's 2 to go over and then 1 to go up.
Chat also pointing out Zora is in Logic, that's a good point. Will he with the gloves or is also in Logic?
Yeah, so there's a lot of scattered stuff that's in Logic. You're not hoping that, again, Moon Pearl on Pyramid Ledge you're just banking on that being last location in any case. Nobody's going to be chancing their match point here on that particular check. So
yeah, especially when Flipheal's got 4 checks in Saha's hut plus Eastern potentially over here.
Yeah, and you know, to note here, we do have Flipheal pulling away. werfjig had a rough time on the mountain with the rocks. Doesn't look like the old sage had anything important for us here, but
nope.
Flipheal has a couple minutes on werf right now, which is a little spooky for werf fans, especially with how linear this seed is looking to be right now.
Yeah, I guess it kind of depends on where they. If they just get the Moon Pearl, then they pretty much only have the 1 Dark World portal, but you can still go a lot of different places from there.
Yeah, it's kind of the worst portal to have to go, because you really have to commit to any particular route you choose to sort of maximize your Dark World travel until we find that hammer, So
Flipheal is going to give us our first look at the Eastern Palace area. So we know that there's got to be some, unless the Moon Pearl is on the Pyramid Ledge, there's got to be something in Eastern Palace or Agena.
And this is also kind of the nice thing about doing just Sahasrarla's hut rather than doing that into Eastern Palace. Because if suppose you're werf and you decided, you know what, instead of going up the mountain, I'm going to go to Eastern Palace. You'd be doing all of the stuff Flipheal's doing, but without the boots. So now that we have the boots, You know, suppose your opponent was doing that. You know, we don't actually have that on our hands right now, but if that was the case, then there would be a lot of time being saved.
Yeah, but like you mentioned, this scene's been pretty linear. We're just seeing werfjig doing basically the exact same things Flipheal did, just a little bit behind.
Yeah, late Moon Pearl is one of those things that really can make a seed pretty linear. Then once we hit Dark World, it opens up at... Okay, big key there. I wasn't paying attention to our dungeon items. Have we seen enough to avoid the vanilla big key room yet?
We have not. There's only been one item in Eastern so far.
All right, well, there's one over there, so you know what we're going to be seeing.
Yeah, at least now it's guaranteed to be an item, so you don't have to worry about risking it. You're like, oh, I gotta go over here.
Yeah, there's no 50-50 to be had here. Meanwhile, werfjig checking the desert area. Probably based on the deaths on the mountain, I would wager. Because this is numerically a slightly worse play. It probably does factor in that werfjig already checks Saha's hut. But, you know, if this is what we need here, Fire Rod. That's a... See, and it doesn't exactly pay off, but, you know, that's one of those longer shot plays, because the desert doesn't have a huge amount of value right now, but taking 2 deaths on the mountain makes you feel like you might have to make a slightly less orthodox play. Yeah,
I think werfjig should be feeling pretty good about that Fire Rod, because we know we're going to most likely be having Titans in its Dark World access.
Yeah.
Skullwood's is a crystal, so he'll be able to just go in there and full clear it as soon as he gets to the Dark World, whereas Flipheal probably not going to get that Fire Rod unless we get nothing from Eastern, and then you're just kind of like, okay, I want to try to avoid Pyramid Ledge Moon Pearl. So we'll see what's on Armos Knight could really, if we get the Moon Pearl from Armos Knight, then that Fire Rod could be pretty big for werfjig. But if he comes up empty from Eastern, then I expect Flipheal will get over to the east to Agana to get his Fire Rod.
It is because it's either that or what, Zora at this point.
Yeah.
And you know, between those 2 checks, you're gonna pick. Well, I guess technically you can fake Flipper and get a lot of get a lot of value that way, but you're still only getting 1 in logic check, and that's 2 pendants.
Yeah, already got 2 of them, and we
and they're in order: green pendant and then blue. So next we're gonna get Dark World access and finish the red pendant dungeon.
Yeah, we just need Arcane of Samaria and a flute. We're
gonna pull a green 20 off of the pedestal. You know, our another sword upgrade.
I think Flipheal's gonna check highly, or he might do he's probably gonna do a splash deletion up here from, though he did just beat the Armos Knight, so might have some trouble with that. He's remembered, good, because if you beat the Armos Knights, it messes up with the Ancilla value that you use to splash delete, and if you hard reset your game, that fixes that, so that's why Flipheal just did that reset there.
Yeah. If you don't understand what Flipheal's doing, but you understand a little bit about how random access memory works, it's some memory gobbledygook. That's really all you need to know. Messes with memory values, sprites on screen. The splash is actually what causes you to despawn in the water, so you make sure that splash doesn't happen. And wow, you can swim.
Yep, and Flipheal demonstrating just that once he reset, he did the exact same thing he did before, except now it worked.
Yeah, that's interesting. Opting not to go into... Well, no, it's not interesting because he doesn't have the Moon Pearl.
Yeah, he would have needed to have gone all the way to Ice Rod Cave instead of a water walk if he wanted to sequence break those Waterfall Cave ones.
But nice awareness in light of the sort of, you know, misremembering on that splash delete there, which is very excusable because it's not a common circumstance that, you know, you have the opportunity to do that particular splash delete. And there we go. Very nice play from Flipheal to go all the way to Zora there.
Yeah, but then on the flip side, this could be pretty nice for werfjig because he might get a little bit of an advantage from having that fire rod a little bit earlier.
It's true. Because again, werfjig is going to have just that check left. So it's going to be pretty obvious there as well.
Unless he decides to play the 50-50 of it being on the Moon Pearl or on the Pyramid Ledge.
Yeah, I don't think he's messed up enough for that. And especially going to Agina and getting that fire rod, it's like, yeah, you know what? You're not feeling behind that much that you feel you need to hope that the Moon Pearl is on Pyramid Ledge.
And Flipheal electing to bypass that first, just that one entrance in the Village of Outcast area and instead do Dark Death Mountain up here. We're seeing our second map check of the day.
Yeah, and I actually like this rather than going straight to Village of Outcasts because, again, knowing, given the item layout, you know, what exactly are you going to do in the Dark World? You know, knowing that you're going to be coming out by Skull Woods, it would be really nice to get that fire rod, or you know, have the hammer for a clear of Thieves Town, you know, full clear. And so that's nice finding that flute.
Yeah, very nice. Because the next place you would be going after this anyway is going to be Kakariko Village. It also opens up the Mire area, so we could in fact see that pendant if we were to get Arcane of Samaria, though I'm sure the runners will not be rushing that. They will likely go to the Mire area because they can be desert, get the Mire shed, but I would not expect them to dip into Mire early.
Yeah, it looks like werfjig is going over to Ice Rod Cave, I think, probably to set up that, probably to set up the water walk, unless he's going to,
He's going to set it up from Mini Moldorm.
Mini Moldorm. So if you, so, you know, dashing with the Pegasus boots, while on that sort of awkward seam, means that the next time you jump down onto a body of water, so he's still going to have to wrap all the way around to the same location, but it's a couple less screen transitions. For some reason, Link does this, so...
Yeah, and chat pointing out that the flute that Flipheal got will probably direct him over to Fire Rod because it's a pretty dense location and Desert is a crystal, so he probably will end up getting his Fire Rod before... going into the Village of Outcast area for the first time.
Yeah, especially with the ability to check that Mire area and you have the mirror and all that, it's you've got that logical full clear of Desert. It's pretty much the obvious next play. So getting a little bailed out there. werfjig about to pick up that Moon Pearl here.
Yeah, we did see Bombos was Turtle Rocks, or Turtle Rock was Bombos Medallion, so we will be seeing that very first item Bombos make an appearance this seed. Just saw 3 bombs up on the Desert Ledge, so we will not need to get that.
Yeah, so Flipheal still sort of is maintaining that lead, mostly by virtue of, you know, being in this area, and he's going to be getting that fire rod, so that kind of reduces werfjig's come from behind potential. However, if you know, if the locations are kind to werf here, then you do sort of have that. This sort of detour that Flipheal's making may, you know, come out with nothing other than the fire rod, so that would sort of put werfjig ahead a little bit behind one Desert Palace clear. But, you know, kind of comes out in the wash if Flipheal doesn't find anything else in this area.
Yeah, it really depends. If werfjig were to pull something nice here from Skull Woods that could make his routing a little more efficient, then he could definitely make up some time.
Yeah, also, if Flipheal ends up getting routed back to exactly what werfjig's doing, then we're kind of trailing behind.
So one other thing to note is that the Mire medallion was Ether, which I'm sure Flipheal was very happy to see because that's the only medallion he does not have. So he doesn't even have any reason. He can't even go into Mire right now.
Yeah, using the boomerang to stun those Gibdos there. You know, I actually didn't know that they did that. I know boomerang usually stuns enemies, but I also know that the does the hook shot do nothing to them? I don't know. There's correct. Yeah, so it's again, it's a thing where enemies are there's not a lot of consistent logic to how the weapons and items work. on different enemies. It's kind of an enemy-on-enemy basis.
Yeah, the two notable ones that are immune to the hookshot but stunned by the boomerang are Tektites and Gyarados.
And then you have those penguins in Ice Palace that die in one hit from the hookshot, but 2 from the Fire Rod.
Yeah, the hookshot generally has 3 settings. It has one where it does nothing, one where it stuns, and one where it kills. It really is no in between.
And you really learn a lot of those quirks playing Rando. You don't learn as many of them as if you speedrun vanilla. Mostly because that's the same every time. But this time you might end up with you're entering Ganon's tower and you haven't found a sword yet.
Yeah, like knowing that you can kill the Argus puffs with the Fire Rod, for instance. Like that's something that's never going to come up in NMG, but maybe in Rando.
Yeah, at this point, Hammer is kind of our next really, really important item. Once the Hammer shows up, whoever has it is happy. They're a happy camper.
And we kind of didn't even get to say anything about werfjig's Mothula fight because he just took care of the Moth just that quickly that by the time I noticed he was in the fight, it was already over.
Ooh, one thing to note, Flipheal is doing Desert Palace first, doesn't have the Fire Rod, so would be able to save a little bit of time here if he had the Fire Rod, maybe get that 1 cycle, but on his 3rd cycle right now, gonna have 4.
So both the runners get to collect their first crystal just from different dungeons.
Meanwhile, I don't recall how many items we saw in Skull Woods, if any.
There was one in the bridge chest. I did not see if he picked up one from Mothula. Looks like Moth had an item because werfjig is not even bothering with the front, which is really nice. If you can go Skullwoods back to front and get both items, you're always happy about that.
Yeah, we're going to see a bumper cave, or a bumper ledge, rather. We're not going to really go into the cave. Just a piece of heart, not interested. Did Werf check the King's Tomb Bonk Rocks?
Yes. Yeah, he also did Lumberjack. So werfjig's going to do over here and do Graveyard Ledge. This is probably one of those plays that you make because you're feeling a bit behind because of the deaths you took, because you know that this is not going to be a very appealing location for either of the runners.
Yeah. It's sort of, we're sort of in a state where there's no pretty way to route this in anyway. So you sort of either check it now or kind of probably leave it for later, which is kind of nice because he pulls the King of Samaria out of there.
Yeah, that'll make first of all, we need that for Turtle Rock. Second of all, we're pretty close to getting Ice Palace access. We could actually go over there and do it if we just have to. It would be out of logic.
I mean, we could do Turtle Rock right now if Ice Rod's in there.
Yep, a good point. And he hasn't got. werfjig has not yet climbed Dark Death Mountain.
So yeah, opting not to go for the Kern jump to Catfish. I think that's advisable in this situation, since Catfish is actually not in logic right now.
Yeah, that would be kind of a...
Well, technically it is, because you could go and beat Aga and then come out there, and then go up there.
Like you mentioned earlier, though, whenever you have the Titans amidst Dark World access, you really have to commit to your route, and it's such a big commitment because you might find the hammer over in Village of Outcasts or Hype Cave, and then
you don't want to leave the hammer over here and be stuck on the side with nothing but pod.
Yeah, you want to only go. You'll make that play if you're feeling so behind that you're like, okay, I need to pick up the hammer on this right side to really save some time.
And that's not a 38-minute in play.
No,
you're rarely in that position at 38 minutes. Yeah, we're spookily close to a ped pull right here.
With just needing the Ether Medallion.
Yeah, we just need the Ether Medallion, and then we can full clear Misery Mire.
I'm sure that Flipheal, werfjig has not seen it yet, but I'm sure Flipheal's just hoping that that's in Ganon's tower.
And Flipheal takes a very, very fortunate death, gets that health refill. Ends up right where he wants to be.
werfjig giving us our first look at Thieves Town, which is you always run the risk here of orphaning the big chest when you come here without the hammer, but werfjig deciding that he's either going to just do the first 4 or maybe he's just okay with orphaning that
Yeah,
location.
I mean, I think you're okay with orphaning it, especially depending on what you get from the first 4. If you get only 1 item in the first 4, or God forbid no items, then that's pretty bad. Seeing the small key there is not what you love to see.
Yeah, it was actually all dungeon items in the front.
All dungeon items in the front. Like, that's almost the point where you're like, yeah, maybe I do come back later, because that guarantees that there is an item check in that big chest. But it is just 1, and you do get a crystal out of this. The real risk is if it's super important, then like you're like never getting it. You know?
Yeah, if it's something like the ice rod, that would just be terrible for him. But the one good thing about this is that, okay, if we're looking at what do we need for go mode, we need our ice rod, our flippers, our hammer, and our flute on werfjig's side. We know where that is though. But so you're only needing 4 items, and one of them's the hammer. We know the hammer is not going to be in there, so maybe feeling like, okay, one of my go mode times probably not going to be in that chest.
Yeah, we are sitting pretty there. It sucks to leave something like mitts in there, because that locks so many other checks that you can end up stymied for a really long time if you end up last locationing there. But right now we're not in too bad of a spot that it does sort of weigh on your conscience, but.
Yeah, and we also saw Flipheal dispatch Moth very quickly as well. So having the tempered sword, it just comes up so big, and the boots and the fire rod, just
and good strategies. You know,
yeah, for sure.
Knowing what you're doing in that boss fight, it doesn't feel like it plays that much difference, because it's just a bunch of conveyor belt garbage, but it does matter.
Yeah, if you know how to get that double hit with the boots and the tempered sword, then the Mothheal fight becomes very quick. Which Flipheal, I don't know if he actually got both of the hits, but he knows the strategy and gave it a shot.
Yeah, the rough thing about the Mothula fight is if Mothula is coded to be immune to the spikes. So if during the recoil from a hit, Mothula hits the spikes, then you did 0 damage. It overwrites the damage that you would have done. So you have to make sure that you're not hitting it in the wrong direction. So it can be a delicate dance. Ooh, Flipheal going over to Graveyard Ledge as well.
Yeah, it'll be nice for him to get his Cane of Samari, because if you don't get this, go over here and get this now, who knows when the next best time to get this will be.
Yeah, I mean, this, like, you really orphan this check if you're not doing it now, so it's kind of a heads up play to do it here. It would be very easy to sort of decide, it's too much time to do right now. I want to get to the meat and potatoes of Village of Outcasts. But yeah, so despite Flipheal also getting that cane, werfjig is sort of leaning a little bit with the asterisk there of the Desert Palace clear that werfjig has not done.
And we see the flippers there over on werfjig's side, so that gives us access to Ice Palace, gives us the first chest of Swamp Palace, which I'm sure neither of these runners are hoping to have the hammer, but maybe you make the big play and think of going and check there on your, because they're gonna have to do the South Dark World at some point. And without having the hammer, it is kind of a hassle to get back over there. So I wouldn't even be shocked to see him check first check of the Swamp, even though it's not super likely to have the hammer.
Yeah, and at this point, it's like, okay, if you had to do Thieves Town without the hammer, finding the flippers there is, you're now okay with that, because that's one of our very important go mode items, and it opens a lot of checks that we're perfectly happy leaving one in Thieves Town to get all of the rest of those.
Yeah, so the hammer's kind of a double-edged sword right now, because if you get the hammer, suddenly a lot of the game is open to you. You can go to Turtle Rock, you can full clear Ice Palace, you can full clear Swamp Palace, you can full clear Palace of Darkness. So if they get the hammer before they get, say, the Ice Rod, or what else do they need? I think that might even just be the Ice Rod, so maybe it's not as bad now that they've gotten the flippers as well. Yeah,
I'm realizing now that I made the same mistake that I make it all the time. When I was talking about Turtle Rock earlier, I sort of forgot. I didn't forget that we didn't have the hammer, but I only remembered that the hammer is not necessary to beat the dungeon. It is, however, necessary to enter the dungeon. So the dungeon, in fact, cannot be completed without the hammer.
Yeah, easy to those things just slip your mind, especially when you're commentating rather than playing.
Yeah, I don't know. I still feel bad about it because it's like the 5th time I've done it on broadcast. I honestly do it every single time. You have every item but hammer. But it looks like werfjig and Flipheal both committing to the Smith chain here, which is really nice considering we do have that in logic magic bat. It's kind of value that you rarely get from this sequence of checks. It would be really aggressive to skip it all in favor of going somewhere else without the hammer.
Yeah, you definitely want to be, when you just have this Titan's Mitts access to Dark World, it can be very beneficial to be thorough because it takes just so long to get to this South Dark World stuff. So if you're going to ever check Bombo's tablet or Purple Chest, you might as well do it now.
Yeah, now, what do you think is in the first chest of Ice Palace?
I would say a small key to Ice Palace. That would just be my first guess, but that's just because that's the easiest guess. But Swamp Palace, I don't know. I'm pulling for the.
Yeah,
first
see, we're
chest
in kind of an interesting situation here because we've got Swamp Palace open and Ice Palace open. Neither of them are completable without the hammer, but both of them have you know, that one chest right away, sort of sitting there, and it's not really locked behind anything. It could have the hammer that we need. So it's kind of an interesting spot.
Yeah, like I said, I wouldn't be shocked to see first chest Swamp just because they're over here and they have all the items that they need.
Yeah, so we see. Actually, I want to point out here, werfjig just sort of did the mirror cheat for the purple chest. You can dash away from the purple chest and still turn it in as long as you interact with the Desert Thief there while your iframes are still out.
Yeah, it's a really nice trick to use if you have the boots and the mirror and turning in that chest.
Yeah, there are a couple of situations where you don't want to do it. It kind of depends what else you have to do in the area at the time.
Yeah, like we saw him not do it before going into the cave south of the grove because you have to wait till you get that check before you can ditch the purple chest.
Bunch of 20s, a 50, and a 20. Green 20.
Yeah, not a good hype cave today.
Yeah, and now you can't even take this into pod. I think we might see werfjig heading into swamp here.
That looks like that's the only thing in this area, so that looks like where he's going.
Now who was it who went up the mountain right away?
That was Flipheal.
So yeah, werfjig is doing this instead of the mountain. Yeah, I think I see a little on the fly routing here as werfjig goes into Swamp Palace right away instead of mirroring, which to me that's the movement of somebody who's using their brain. That happens to me all the time. If I'm thinking about something, I'll make weird autopilot mistakes like that.
Yeah, he's trying to think of what his next move could be next because he's already done the waterfall cave check, so the flippers really only gave him the hobo check, but he also has Dark Death Mountain, so maybe he's wanting to try to make a play right here, do first chest of swamp, and then maybe go up to Dark Death Mountain after this.
Yeah, I want to make sure that I point that out too, because it's usually what looks like a brain is turned off kind of thing, but no, its brain is very much turned on there.
It's distracted.
Yeah, Flipheal also demonstrating if you do that, I think that frame perfect dash after hook shotting to something, you can actually dash with that chest, which is also a very nice piece of tech.
Yeah, with followers like the purple chest and the bomb that drop when you dash, if you hook shot to something and then start a dash or take damage before the follower catches up, then you will be able to dash with it.
Just another reason that the frog is the best follower.
Yeah, he'll do anything with you. He'll hover with you. He'll go into most caves with you, but he will also get deleted. He'll get deleted by stuff like if you get the bread bomb or Kiki. Well, you have him. He just disappears.
Yeah, he does. He just goes home. He gets stuck again. So, to answer the question in chat, why not complete Swamp? It's literally impossible without the hammer. That's the only check that's available in Swamp without the hammer. So, that's actually another reason that that's not a bad check to do while you're in that area, because you know that if you don't get the hammer there, you're not in for a deep dive. It does take quite a bit of time to go into actually check that, though. We're also getting our first look at Hobo here on werfjig's side.
Yeah, some nice routing over here if he's planning to go into Palace of Darkness next, which again, he's perhaps werfjig feels a little bit behind from his earlier mishaps on the mountain and wants to try to make a play.
Yeah, I mean, I do like the idea of going to Palace of Darkness here instead of the mountain, because you can. There's a lot that's available in Palace of Darkness with bow but no hammer. A lot more than is available with hammer but no bow.
Yeah, depending on the key layout. And Flipheal also, and interestingly, electing to not finish Thieves Town, so he will not get his flippers, won't know that the east side of Death Mountain is in logic. Not Death Mountain, Dark World, sorry.
Yeah, and so that's, putting off Thieves Town just because you can't open one check. I don't know. It obviously carries a lot of weight for a lot of runners. I've honestly never felt that strongly towards it, and I always say it's probably because it hasn't bitten me bad enough yet, but.
I did not check where Flipheal got that mushroom, but he's turning it in now.
Probably Dark Death Mountain, because werfjig does not have it. Rewarded with the ability to capture bees.
All right, let's see where Flipheal is going over here.
Yeah, werfjig is definitely. werfjig is definitely going to pod here.
Yeah, I think
no reason to walk away from catfish unless that's what you're doing.
Yeah, Flipheal gonna use the second instance of Splash Deletion in roughly the same location. Is going to use it to go over to Palace of Darkness. We know that this is in logic because the flippers are available, but he's deciding that there's really not that much left to do.
Ooh, gets hit. That's rough.
Yeah, luckily if you get hit on the first screen where you flight flipper, you don't die instantly because you just go back to where you jumped into the water. But these bombers can be very annoying.
Yeah, so this has worked out really well for Werf. Ending up being able to go into pod, he's cleared out most of his available checks that aren't on Dark Death Mountain.
Yeah, so if something like the Ice Rod is in Palace of Darkness, then that would be great for werfjig because he'd be able to go up the mountain for his first time in Dark Death Mountain, clear out Turtle Rock, and since with what we've seen, if pod doesn't have more progression than Turtle Rock could have it. I guess sorry, we need a hammer for Turtle Rock. I did the same thing you did.
Yeah, and the only advantage Flipheal has right now is that Desert Palace clear, which is not going to be long at all for Werf. It's going to be a very fast clear, even if it's the last thing he does before go mode, which, given what we know about, Meyer area.
And there's the hammer
werfjig doesn't know it.
In the first chest of pod.
Yeah. I mean, it makes sense to sort of put it off this long too. And that's really nice in that it, you didn't check both Swamp and Ice Palace for that first chest.
Yeah, so now we're just in an Ice Rod hunt.
Yeah, and werfjig now gets to save a little bit of time over Flipheal in Swamp Palace. Not much at all, but a small amount because he gets to skip that first check. If we don't find the Ice Rod first, that is.
And the Ice Rod, bad thing about that, it can be just about anywhere in the game. Could be in Misery Mire, could be on the pedestal, it can't be in
Could be in Thieves Town Big Chest.
Yeah, and if that would basically decide the game, because Flipheal will be able to check that when he goes in.
We could need Ether for Ice Rod on pedestal. That would be fun.
Yeah, you hate to see when the Ice Rod hides out on the pedestal. So we already saw 2 items in our front of Palace of Darkness, so werfjig selected to get that key, go straight to the back.
Yeah, werfjig has a huge advantage if the Ice Rod is in Swamp Palace. because Flipheal cannot do that until clearing Thieves Town. And I imagine that's probably the next place. Well, no, he's probably going to do Ice Palace first, but...
Yeah, and I would think Flipheal's probably going to want to go over to Thieves Town relatively soon because he knows that what he's doing right now to him is not in logic, so he's got to figure that there's something over in Thieves Town, which I think at this point would have to be the flippers that would give him access to this.
Man, Flipheal is really pulling out all of the game knowledge stops there. He uses that extended stair state to get through those pegs, the Ancilla deletes to get over here. It's, you know, really making up for the fact that his routing is by item placement not as good, but you know, making up for it with these with the tricks.
Yeah, he's definitely been pulling out all the stops today. Tournament life on the line, but good to see these runners performing. So it looked like, I think we've got still one item left to get here.
Yeah, red potion is also not a terrible item to have in the back pocket. Especially in hard item pool. Can definitely bail you out in a tight spot.
Absolutely. Those late air game dungeons, you can sometimes take an unnecessary hit and then you're just one hit away from death.
Or the ultimate late game dungeon, the Ganon fight. If you touch that guy, you're gonna be missing more than half your health.
Good to see werfjig on his way over to Pod. A little bit bellied by that red mimic, but able to get past it.
Yeah, Flipheal, meanwhile, is cruising through this dungeon. He's made up time here on werfjig.
Yeah, he's been doing really well.
So through the dark rooms into the turtle room. Flipheal, meanwhile, watching the cutscene that everybody loves. It's very interesting.
Yeah, the turtle room, and luckily they have the lamp, because that can really come up to be quite annoying at times.
You know, it always blows my mind that every time Link to the Past does that, you know, rumbling, you know, hallway slowly opening up cutscene, every time it's like less impactful than the first time. Like the coolest time, in my opinion, that it does that is in Desert Palace. Because it's like you think it's the end of a hallway, but it's not. And then, you know, second coolest is there in Palace of Darkness, and then you've got Misery Mire, where it's completely pointless.
You just see it shaking.
Yeah, it's completely pointless in Misery Mire. It's like, why even do that?
So we saw werfjig was able to get rid of Helmasaur without any issue, and Flipheal looking to do the same.
Wow. Like, just the amount of time that Flipheal saved here. Just barely behind. There was quite a bit of difference in time in their entries. That's speedrunning, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, that was got a little bit touch and go there at the end for Flipheal, but with the red potions, and he knew he was okay, so able to beat Helmasaur as well. But yeah, like you said, he definitely made up a lot of time in this dungeon.
Yeah, you know, Flipheal has to make sure to get the most out of the boss refills, so it has to make sure he's at one heart every time.
And looks like Flipheal is going to go over to beat Thieves Town and get his flippers, and we'll get to take our first look at.
Yeah, look at that, the hook speed. Like again, it's just a little thing, but you know, he's saved, you know, maybe up to a second with that.
Yeah, it takes confidence to do it, because if you go for that and miss it, it's not as big a deal with the hook speed as it is with the spin speed, but you can actually end up losing time if you don't set it up quickly.
And again, that's sort of what I was saying right at the beginning of this race, is that execution buys you, it buys you insurance. Because you can make a bad play, but if you play the non-roulette part really well, you know, you can make up for those bad roulette spins.
Yeah, werfjig didn't count he must have forgotten his item count in Palace of Darkness there, going back to check the 2 keys in the front that were there.
Yeah, I mean, I feel that, you know, if you're not sure, you don't leave it.
Yeah.
Not when your tournament life is on the line.
Meanwhile, we're seeing werfjig going into Ice Palace right now, which makes a lot of sense, as the Cane of Samaria and the Fire Rod, so it'll be nice and quick.
Yeah, now Flipheal must have done the front 4 of Thieves Town and dipped, right?
Yeah, he did.
Okay. Yeah, I was like, yeah, there's no way. He must have gone straight through. So yeah, Ice Palace first, makes sense. And then we're gonna see Swamp Palace. It's a nice spot for werfjig here. The full clear of Ice Palace isn't really all that long, and so you want to go here first in case the Ice Rod's here. If you find it here, then you can go mode Swamp, which is fantastic. But if not, hey, you've got the most item dense dungeon in the game waiting for you, and then you YOLO Skull Woods. And by Skull Woods, I mean Turtle Rock. I don't know why I said Skull Woods.
Well, werfjig will probably do Desert first, but
oh,
yeah.
Desert Palace.
Turtle, you definitely go up to Turtle. You're just doing dungeons right now. They both got so many dungeons left.
And in werfjig's mind, you know, you've got all the Dark Death checks too.
Yeah. The Ice Rod was in Ice Palace for their last match, though it was Pendant Ice Palace, so not as fun to come over to.
Yeah, this is a pretty close race, all things considered. Yeah, even if werf hits go, you know, with that extra desert clear and with how Flipheal's been playing, yeah, you cannot call it in any way, shape, or form here.
Oh, and yeah, chat pointing out that werfjig not able to get into Desert yet because doesn't have the book or the flute, so not able to use that Mire portal.
Oh, yeah, where was the flute? Was in Super Bunny.
Yeah, it's in on Dark Death Mountain. And meanwhile, we saw the big chest of Thieves Town just being a piece of hearts, so werfjig is not going to get destroyed by that location. And also, we got SpeedGaming 4 rating us with a party of 63, so welcome to all of our new runners. To kind of give a synopsis of this race, Flipheal is probably a little bit ahead. He's done a little bit more dungeon checks and hasn't really missed out on anything werfjig's gotten. werfjig took a little bit more time doing catfish and had some unfortunate deaths on Dark Death Mountain, and Flipheal's just been executing really well, so got a bit of a lead, but not insurmountable.
Yeah, werfjig really would need to find the book here. If you can't do Desert first, then yeah, it's a little rough to have to go up to Turtle Rock, even if the Ice Rod is there to go do that, then have to come back down to do Desert and then go back up. That's rough. That is when that Desert clear sort of does hurt.
Yeah, I think if that were to be the case, then werfjig would have to hope that Turtle Rock's a required double dick to kind of. I mean, he probably wouldn't be hoping for that, but we know watching here that would be about the only thing that would make it so he doesn't lose time to Flipheal for not going to Dark Death Mountain earlier.
Ooh, hammer pegs.
Yeah,
this is Ice Rod.
Because there's never going to be a good time. Flipheal already did the powder and the smith chain.
Yeah, so. If that was Ice Rod, I would have been upset with this race. It's like, oh, yeah, you can't take a close race away from us like that.
Yeah, it's like that qualifier that had hammer in first chest of swamp, and then another go mode item in hammer pegs.
Yeah, you hate to see a close race go one-sided like that, but if Ice Rod had been there, ooh man, would Flipheal be well, Flipheal losing a little bit of time because has to check these now that those flippers checks are in logic.
Yeah, and werfjig able to dispatch Cold Stare nicely. Having the Tempered Sword for that fight really helps, and then getting some Fire Rod shots also good. And Flipheal's going to cover up werfjig's tracks, go over into Ice Palace, and werfjig's probably off the Swamp Palace right now.
Yeah, the only thing werf can do here is try to go fast. You know, save time. You know, even finding the ice rod in here is not gonna be huge. There are no huge item finds that are really gonna pay off, other than maybe the book. The book would prevent werfjig from having to come back down the mountain. So.
And even with the book, though, he's gonna lose time just because it'll take him longer to have done desert than Flipheal.
Yeah.
I think
it's not nearly as quick without that flute.
werfjig's best chance, I think, is honestly to get not much from Swamp Palace and Turtle Rock, and then it coming down to just deciding the correct, not very good location after going into Turtle Rock to find the ice rod.
I mean, what else is left that we haven't seen without finding another, without finding book and having to check the tablets?
Yeah, basically, we would really have to find something like Ether or the book to really get more locations. Because, yeah, you're right. We've checked just about every overworld location between these two runners.
Yeah, we would need to find another item first if it's not in this dungeon or in Turtle Rock.
Yeah, something like Ether Medallion to give us Misery Mire and the pedestal.
Oh,
or,
Spike Cave. Spike Cave. Vortex pointing out in chat. Spike Cave.
Yes,
it's now in logic with that hammer.
That's a good point. And they would likely do that if once they decide that they're going to make the decision to do Ice Rod. The Turtle Rock would go there either before or after, depending on how risky they're feeling.
I mean, I'm not sure you ever. I mean, under certain circumstances, you're feeling risky enough to do it after. But you know, if it's the first time you can check Spike Cave and you need Ice Rod to do Turtle Rock, I mean, sure. You go in there. It is a long check, but...
Seeing a nice little stair clip there from Flipheal to save a little bit of time and going down that staircase. It can be quite annoying with that fireball.
Flipheal just saving a little bit of time everywhere this seed.
Yeah, and it adds up over the course of a run.
As somebody who doesn't practice execution, it makes me a little bit upset, but mostly because I'm jealous. I'm jealous of Flipheal's dedication. You know, because being able to pull that stuff off isn't hard, but it does take practice. Anybody can do it, but nobody can just do it. You know, it's something you really have to work at. And both of these runners put in a lot of time in this game, and feel free to give both of them a follow if you so choose. Follows are free.
Yeah, they've both been giving us a really nice show today, and just a nice series overall. We'll get to see our first look at left side of Swamp over on werfjig's side. Just the map over there in that first chest to the left side. And the ice rod.
There's the ice rod, okay.
Let's not go mode for werfjig yet, because he still needs some way to get to Desert Palace, but that will be go mode for Flipheal when he comes over here. Meanwhile, Flipheal is going to show us his Cold Sear fight. He has half magic, so it'll be a little bit easier than what werfjig had.
Yeah, can you imagine Book in back of Swamp here?
Yeah, that would be nice for werfjig, and Flipheal getting a very nice quick kill there on Cold Stare. So just another instance of nice execution there.
Oh, did werfjig do left side before doing Compass Chest? I suppose, you know, time-wise it doesn't make that much difference, but... Compass just had the compass. Interesting.
Yeah, if anything, that would have probably pushed him more towards doing left side, though I can't imagine skipping left side Swamp with, well,
no, yeah, there's no way werfjig ever would have skipped left side.
Because werfjig still has the mountain, so I could at least see a world where werfjig does it. Flipheal, no way he's going to skip that, because he's got so few locations left. He's got, like, Catfish and a few other one-offs.
Yeah, and with Catfish being your one-off, you know. If we were still looking for Hammer, that would be one thing, but, no, you do the dungeon first, every time. I wonder if... Yeah, werfjig goes back up to check the big chest because he still needs Book or Flute.
Oh, getting the glitch.
No, when you go back up that way through that that staircase. For some reason, the first time your position is offset a little bit up, and when you come off the stairs, you are right there in the stair hitbox. So, yeah. I'm very familiar with that because I don't ever do diver down. So if I ever have to come back up, I'm always in that room. So yeah, in my experience, it happens every time. Please let me know if there's a way to avoid that.
I think there is, but I don't know it.
I don't think there is. I refuse to believe there is. Otherwise, what is all this time I've been wasting? Dash upstairs, buffer left. I'll believe it when I see it, Maniacal 42. Just let me have this salt.
Looks like werfjig not getting the book that he's gonna need from the back so far. He's gonna have to hope. I haven't been counting the items well enough, but we've seen. I think we've seen all the dungeon items, so there's an item on Argus.
Yeah, we've seen compass and a big key for sure. I didn't see the map, but somebody else probably did.
Map was first checked to the left side.
I believe you. Now here's that small amount of time that Flipheal's losing here. Does have to go and check this chest.
werfjig showing off the dash poke stracks on Argus. Unfortunately, not able to get the 0 cycle, but still good to see the attempt.
You know, shout outs to Vortex, who lost his tournament life yesterday. Got very close to the 0 cycle Argus in his match on, I want to say Sunday. Yeah, 0 cycle Argus is a nice time save if you put in the time to practice it.
Yeah, as far as tricks go, it's one of the more difficult ones, but it just looks so cool when you're able to pull it off. So yeah, werfjig is almost certainly going to go up the mountain right now. That's by far, there's not really anything else he can do. He'll get his go mode, but unfortunately for him, Flipheal, though Flipheal electing to do left side afterwards, or maybe it would be hard to believe he's going to skip it.
Yeah, I mean, doing it afterwards definitely makes a lot of sense when you're just looking for Ice Rod for go mode, because you know the density of the back here is a lot better than the density of the left side. So, you know, if you do find it in the back half, then you're in a good spot, because then you don't need to check left side anyway. If not, no harm, no foul. It's not that big of a time loss to have to go back in for it. So yeah, it on average, you're gonna come out on top if you only need the one item for go mode.
Yeah, nowadays you do lose a little bit of time not being able to dive her down when you come back in, but on the flip side, you could get something like Big Key on Argus, where if you are one item away from go mode and want to come back in for the big chest, then you're basically gonna have to come back in anyway. So there's a lot of scenarios where it can be really worth it to skip like you mentioned, because you could just find the Ice Rod back here and not have to go back in at all.
Yeah, generally I like to do that if I've seen the big key and I've gotten an item from the big chest already. So you still totally have the possibility of never having to come back in and just getting the map and compass on the left side. But, you know, with the possibility of one item, and in fact, we know the map is on the left side, in fact, you can definitely be forgiven for, you know, playing your odds there.
Yeah, so Flipheal collecting his 6th crystal, just needs to go back in to get that Ice Rod and will be in go mode. Meanwhile, werfjig electing to do Turtle Rock before Hookshot Cave and Super Bunny, so he's gonna not be able to go mode Turtle Rock. Go mode Turtle Rock doesn't often save that much time, but when you're behind like this, every little bit will help.
Yeah, it does appear that werfjig is ahead, but very, very crucially, werfjig has to go back and finish Desert Palace. Usually one of the fastest dungeons to do, but when you have to do it after already being up in Turtle Rock, that's a big time loss.
Yeah, it's so nice when you can have Turtle Rock or Tower of Hero be your last dungeon and save yourself an extra dungeon or mountain climb.
Flipheal skipped Compass Chest on the way in, too. I suppose if you're gonna commit to skipping Left Side Swamp, it makes sense to skip this on your first time through. If you're going to cross your fingers for that go mode. So that's precious extra seconds that that pass before Flipheal hits official go mode. And he gets to just bail out and go straight up the mountain.
werfjig having a nice time there in the chain chomp room, able to dodge them. That room can always be a little scary.
Especially in hard mode. If you've got blue or red mail and if you've got blue mail and a couple hearts, or red mail, it's not that big of a deal. But green mail, it's they're really just in the way. They're always where you don't need them to be. Yeah, so Flipheal is definitely in the lead. werfjig can, you know, make up this time. He can keep it close, but any sort of, you know, misplay on werfjig's part here is going to be costly. werfjig has to play very well in order to try and keep pace with Flipheal here.
Absolutely, it's something that, like, these races it's when they're even like Flipheal probably like 2 minutes or so ahead. So definitely a solid, firm lead, but this is randomizer. Anything can happen. You can have unfortunate circumstances in Ganon's tower. You could even have werfjig pick up a little bit of time on Ganon's tower routing and then just have a nice execution towards the stretch. So,
yeah, Flipheal officially in go mode here, coming up to finish the last dungeon, a go mode TR, which is going to basically be TR minus that vanilla big key check. So yeah, this is right now we're actually seeing the sort of the magnitude of this lead that Flipheal has. Coming up to the dungeon that werfjig is only halfway through. Probably going to be near the end of it by the time Flipheal gets inside. And werfjig has to climb the mountain again after doing desert.
Yeah, Flipheal is going to be about an entire go to desert, clear desert, climb up the mountain ahead.
Like this is at the stage where assuming, you know, equal play, if they take the same route through GT, Flipheal wins, hands down. You know, that said, a lot of that was definitely on the back of a lot of that that game knowledge from Flipheal. Being able to make up for the fact that werfjig ended up getting those flippers. That could have been a really big item to get, but didn't matter to Flipheal. So stuff like that really can end up paying off.
Yeah, and it should be noted that Flipheal was taking a little bit of a risk there because he knew that there had to be some, what he had checked, they knew there was going to be some sort of regression on the east side of Dark World. However, if it had been flipped and the hammer had been on blind and the flippers had been in pod, well,
yeah, very different story.
But that's randomizer. You want to execute as well as possible so that whatever plays you decide to make, you can recover from if they're wrong, and if they're right, you can kind of extend your lead.
Very nice Samaria strats on that that peg room there from werf.
We're going to see him go into is try next fight. Really nice to have the tempered sword here so you can just slash away at those heads and get rid of them really quickly.
It's the 1 cycle, 2 cycle, never mind. Spoke too soon.
He gets the quick kill on the main head, and down goes Trinex for werfjig. So Just got to go over to Super Bunny Cave to grab that flute and clear out desert, and he'll be on his way to GT as well.
Yeah, the unfortunate thing. Well, I don't know if it's unfortunate yet. Does he check Super Bunny or Hookshot first?
I would think Hookshot Cave first.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that was what I was gonna say. I'm not always up on the meta. I don't know if maybe there's some weird meta thing where Super Bunny is usually checked first or something. Ooh, Flipheal almost goes down to those anti-fairies.
Yeah, because if you're gonna check, if you check Super Bunny first, you have to climb back out to get to Hookshot. So I think if you're coming up here and you're going to go over to Turtle Rock from here, I think maybe you could do Super Bunny first there, because then you're going to have to climb up anyway. But in this scenario where he's going to save and quit out of it, definitely makes sense to do Hookshot Cave first. Well, maybe not save and quit, because he still has Spike Cave on his head. So we know he'll save and quit, but with Spike Cave, it kind of mitigates that you'd be climbing up anyway.
And he's just leaving here, and I just realized he's going to have to activate the flute too.
Yeah, and the unfortunate thing is that chest above was half magic.
Yeah, it shouldn't be that big of a deal, but yeah, that's a very nice thing to have. It's a little less impactful without the cape. Cape and half magic, it makes the Ganon fight very, very free. So Flipheal is gonna have to. I'm sure both of them are more than capable of doing it, you know, without the half magic. But Flipheal is going to be able to turn his brain off a little bit for that fight.
Yeah, you can be a little bit more reckless with the fire.
Well, I mean, I guess with no cape. With no cape, it doesn't really matter. But yeah, the fire with the silverless, yeah.
Yeah, so it's one of the few items where it actually would have been worth it to take the extra time to pick up that chest. But of course, werfjig has no way of knowing that.
Yeah, and so it looked like werfjig was doing okay despite putting off the Dark Death Mountain, but you know, I guess I'm gonna say it. That was kind of our failing as commentators for, you know, failing to notice that the significance of that being one of 2 items that we actually need to access Desert Palace. Book is the only other thing that would let us get in there. So werfjig really was skating on thin ice this whole race without going up there.
Yeah, it's unfortunate that one of the items for him, at least, was that it was something you would have to come back down the mountain from and use. So, like, if that had instead been the Cane of Samaria and Flipheal had gotten that early, well, it wouldn't have really hurt werfjig, because then he comes up here about the same time, doesn't need the Cane of Samaria. I guess he loses some time with the Diver Down and Icebreaker stuff.
Yeah, well, maybe not Diver Down. Could know the bomb setup.
Yeah.
It's an older reference, but checks out. Yeah, unfortunately, he is, as Vortex says, not Tile Room Gamble behind, which does hurt me a little bit. I always love Tile Room Gamble.
All right, and so with that crystal, you'll see some numbers posted in chat. So get a number between 1 and 22 for where you think the GT Big Key will be. It will not be very quick, or not very long, because Flipheal has got to run over to GT, and the bot is down, so the points are more imaginary than usual, but definitely still guess for fun. I'm going to pick 14. How about you, Esmar?
I guess 3 in chat, but I'm putting all my points at 11 or sooner. Actually, no, I was gonna put them on the other one, but yeah, 3. I always go with 3 because hope room right, hope room left, tile room. Tile room is notorious as the last location for the big key here. But you know, it's always worth remembering that it can always be check number 3. It doesn't have to be the last one.
You see that cape over there, which could be nice insurance for the Ganon fight. Also, if we have
also nice insurance for tile room, yeah.
Yep.
Come on.
Doing the cape strats there, but yeah, Flipheal's not going to do it. He's feeling good.
Yeah, in all honesty, it does hurt my soul a little bit, but it is the right play to skip it. Like 99 times out of 100. Even if it is there, you know, especially in a one-on-one race scenario. You lose so little. Oh man, that Pegasus dash to knock the block over there. I don't even know if that's fast, and I don't even care. That looked so nice.
All right, so we got 6 checks, no key yet. We're gonna see Flipheal steal this key and then go over to the left side.
Yeah, interestingly though, we do have, you know, right and then full left from Flipheal, which is a less common play. I wouldn't be surprised to see werfjig do something that wasn't that. So it's possible that werfjig saves a little bit of time in GT basement here.
Yeah, it really depends where the big key is, because a lot of runners will do Stalfos from first and then mirror out, so they don't have to worry about beating the Stalfos. So if it's in here, perhaps werfjig could save a little bit of time.
Yeah, if werfjig doesn't do Hope Room first, he's probably going to find it sooner. Ooh, there's Ether. GT big key could be on Ped.
And so that was already up to check 11, I believe.
Yo, shoutouts to SpeedGaming with a party of 63. Thanks for the raid. We are right here in the middle of, well, not really the middle. We're near the end of this Link to the Past randomizer race. We've got Flipheal versus werfjig. werfjig is trailing behind off of the back of. He didn't get the flute right over there in Super Bunny Cave here.
Yeah, and Flipheal's just been playing really well. It's hard to make up time with execution when Flipheal's doing
Flipheal has been playing a monster game. I will say Flipheal has probably had the item disadvantage throughout basically the entire well, not the entire thing, but you know, at most points Flipheal was sort of behind in terms of logical routing, but game knowledge and execution has won the day for Flipheal so far. werfjig not far behind. Flipheal still hasn't gotten that big key.
Yeah, we're up to check number 14, 15, 16, and 17. And it's coming up nothing, so we're gonna have to look for Bob's chests and Ice Armos next.
So actually, werfjig would probably save a little bit of time with full right.
Yeah, not a strategy you see often when they have the mirror, but if you're feeling a little behind, maybe it's worth it to risk.
Yeah, I don't know that I've ever seen a runner do that particular route. Or it could be in Tile Room, which werfjig could check right now if he wants to make me very, very happy. It's all right. Nobody ever wants to make me that happy.
Yeah, I guess he's more concerned about trying to win the race.
Yeah, that's, I mean, you know, you've got, who would win, you know, making Esmar happy or winning a race? I mean, it's kind of a no contest.
And there we saw it over in chest number 18, Bob's chest. So we just get to dodge the Ice Armos play, which is always nice.
Yeah, it will be interesting if werfjig skips the you know, the mirror. Probably not going to happen if I'm a betting man. But yeah, he's already got the mirror out. You know he's going to do it. So unfortunately, no time gain here in GT. You know, not surprising either. It's always just kind of a roll of the die here in GT, which way you go and which ends up being the right play. So honestly, it's largely a comfort pick, really. Like, you just do what you're comfortable with, because you know unless you're doing something different than your opponent, you're not going to ever gain any time on it, really.
Yeah, perhaps if you're aware of what your opponent likes to do, you could pick a strategy. Like if you know your opponent normally does the Hope Room right, if you get a key, go to Compass Room, then go left. Maybe you could elect to do a full right, knowing that, okay, I could gain a little bit of time here if it's in one of those checks that's quicker on my route. But yeah, generally you're just going to do what works best for you. Meanwhile, Flipheal's over in the Gauntlet now, so let's see how quickly he can get through here. Doing a pretty nice job so far.
Yeah, and in a race this close too, it's sometimes even not worth the risk, because you know, if you do something that could save you time and lose the gamble, well, then you're losing even more time. So if you're already behind, that's you know, it's often it's one of the fewer favorite parts of the run, but you know, from a racer standpoint, it's often really not worth worrying about that much. You make sure that whatever you do, you're comfortable for the climb, so you can do the best job you can.
Yeah, because a really consistent way to save time on your DT Big K routing is just to have clean execution in your route. Flipheal's still been keeping up a good job here in the gauntlet so far. Had that short hop on land mode to give him the quick 2 cycle instead of the 1, but very nice gauntlet so far.
Yeah, if I'm correct about the way if Lammo RNG works the same way that Aghanim RNG works, werfjig's gonna have to deal with the same thing. So.
Yeah, you can sometimes throw off those landmos by staying in the room with the anti-fairy or the bunny beam too long.
Ooh, werfjig misses the bonk skip there.
Flipheal was practicing his Moldor imbalances before this match, but not going to have to do that here. You have the hook shot. You can just do the normal way.
Oh, mistimes the hook shot. That's precious time he can't get back. As werfjig begins the climb, as Flipheal finishes it.
Yep, we'll get to see Flipheal go into his Aghanim 2 fight. We'll see if the Wizard's going to give us some nice patterns today, or if he's going to be a bit annoying.
Are we going to see? Are we going to see the fabled 2-cycle? I think it's theoretically possible.
Well, that one, I don't know if that double
I think that was 2. I think that was 2. Those last 2 were really close.
And then Aghanim decided it didn't matter anyway.
Oof, okay, that's at least this pattern's pretty nice.
I guess that first one was a triple.
Wow, okay. So yeah, wouldn't have been possible, but werfjig could skip a cycle. You could get a 3-cycle. 3-cycle minimum. That was 4 for Flip. Always like to see those triple hits, even if it doesn't make it any faster.
Yeah. Let's see if he'll drop into his Ganon fight and just get to finish off the game.
Yeah, so as long as Flipheal doesn't choke on Ganon here, which is possible, but we never expected of these runners. These runners they're practice. This is the part of the game that you have to do in every single run. And this is hundreds for these people. So yeah, it's always possible. It's never guaranteed, but
Flipheal able to get
you're
that
feeling
one
pretty
cycle
good
there.
here.
I think he got it on phase 2 as well. Yeah, so nice double 1 cycle there by Flipheal.
You like to call that 2-cycle in some segments. Actually, we don't actually ever call that 2-cycle. It's 1-in-1. And Flipheal getting a couple extra teleports, but it is no matter. werfjig will get the same teleports.
And able to get some nice little free hit before setting up lamp torch glitch. So just going to need 11 more to get rid of the pig.
Yeah, and with the half magic, this is you're feeling really comfy here. You know, you can just go for all those triples that you want. You don't have to worry about making the most of your magic bar. You know, I remember as a kid playing this game, I never picked up the half magic because I thought it gave me half as much magic.
The bat fooled you.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I thought it was. I agreed with the bat. I thought it was a terrible thing. I was like, oh no, don't do that. I'm going to quit without saving.
All right, down goes Ganon over there on Flipheal's side. So all he's got to do is cross the bridge, staying nice and far back, not wanting to walk off that ledge. So get your GGs in chat here for Flipheal. He's going to be able to take this race and advance into the main tournament.
Yeah, taking it home with an official time of, if you'll give me a second here, that is going to be 1 hour, 33 minutes, and 37 seconds. Just a mere 4 seconds shy of quadruple threes. So, yeah, GG's to Flipheal.
Yeah, definitely nice to see that from the nice little end of the game there. We'll see if either of the runners are going to join us here for an interview.
Yeah, werfjig not going to be closing this one out. Respectable, you know. All you've got is the part you've done a million times before. So yeah, it's a close race, very close. You know, you see the room he's in right there. That's the conveyor room with the spike ball. So
Yeah, and it was a very close series overall too. So definitely want to give these runners a follow. They put on a great show for all three of these games.
yeah, I mean, the best news of all really is this tournament is basically just for prestige. So, you know, if you get good games out of it, you know, you're laughing all the way to the bank. You had fun. That's the secret, you know. Is if you don't just play for the W, you get to have fun no matter what.
All right, well, joined here by Flipheal. Flipheal, congratulations on the win and qualifying for the tournament.
Thank you very much. Good game. werfjig as well. Good buddy of mine. Tough going up against him, but
Now you were playing fire today. That was there was I can't remember a single time where I saw you sort of flub anything. You were speeding through some stuff that it really struck me in what was it? Yeah, help me out here.
Pod was one spot where it was you entered significantly later than your opponent, but were able to almost finish at the same time.
yeah, I almost blundered it up because I was about to hammer jump and I was like, no, wait a minute, I need one key to get back in because I knew the front keys were both locked, and yeah, it worked out well. I saved myself from doing that, and it just kind of flowed from there.
Yeah, and you also made up very well for not getting the flippers out of Thieves Town, putting that off for a while. You were able to sort of circumvent that with a lot of game knowledge there. werfjig ended up getting those flippers right away, but it didn't end up mattering that much to you.
Yeah, I will say I felt really good at first. When it took 3 tries, unfortunately. I got a little unlucky with the enemies, but yeah, I found the hammer. I was super pumped. And then I go back to Thieves, and there's nothing in the bid chest, and the flipper's there. I'm like, oh god. I'm like, there's a world where he does that, because there were 3 items in the back, but I don't know, it was tough to commit without the hammer. But
yeah, in fact, that's exactly what happened. Unfortunately, it didn't end up paying off that much because you ended up going to Dark Death Mountain earlier, and you picked up the flute, and unfortunately, Werf is not bailed out by the book.
yeah, getting that flute felt really good. I didn't want to go straight to village right away because I don't know, I hate going to village without hammer. So it's like, if there's just anything I can do, if hammer's up there, great. If anything, because like originally I just figured the pearl was gonna be up there, so that was a whole adventure too, right?
Yeah, you ended up, I think, Werf ended up getting the pearl a little ahead, I think, if I remember correctly. But yeah, that showing up on Zora, it's just like, okay, well, the first half of this seed was pretty linear, but after that, you kind of have options, and yeah, like you said, you know, you don't have hammer yet. That's when you have to decide to make use of those options that you suddenly now have. So yeah, going up that mountain and doing those Dark Death Mountain checks paid off. Now, that would have been very interesting if either of you had decided to do Dark Death Mountain on your first trip up the mountain by sequence breaking the Super Bunny.
Yeah, that would have paid off and got the flute early. And one thing to note about you getting your flute early is with that fire out of Nagina, werfjig actually got that early, so that could have been an advantage for him being able to clear out Skull Woods the first time using that village portal, but the flute was able to direct you over towards Agina to get your fire rod.
Yeah, I felt pretty good when I found it, but at the same time I was like, well, he probably tried to avoid Aga like the plague like I did. So there's a world where he does Agina first before Zora, so like but it still felt great knowing that I was just gonna go straight to village and be able to do Skull Woods without any issue. was a little worried about Head, but thankfully I think Ether was in GT.
Yeah, Ether was it was coming up big, hiding away because you guys got both those pendants really early and had access to Misery Mire pretty early, except the pendant. But then, yeah, Ether was hiding in Stelphos' room. All right. Well, thank you for joining us in the interview, Flipheal. Do you have anything else you'd like to say before we go?
Thanks for calming, thanks for restreaming, thanks for tracking that other one. Everything's important. It's great to have 2 restreams, and again, it was a great race. I'm really excited to be in brackets. At the same time, like I said, it kind of sucks because werfjig's, he's a good buddy. He's one of the people I, came up playing rando with. So, this would be him if it were not me.
It had to be one of you, though.
Yeah.
It had to be one. Well, yeah, you're moving forward to the main bracket. So, yeah, is this the last match for Group N? Is Group N going to be finishing up their matches now? Are they going to be joining that club?
They're all done, yeah.
This is it.
All right, so yeah, shout outs once again to everybody involved here. Sorcerer Finch, I think, stepping in doing the tracking. Co-commentator Dane 8373. I don't know how important those numbers are to you, but
I just picked him when I was 10.
Hey, same with all the letters in my name. Extra shout outs to our restreamer T Sigma. Without T Sigma, none of this would be happening for you, fine ladies and gentlemen out in the audience. So, yeah, huge shout outs. Do we have anything else going on tonight?
Yeah, we've got another match on later today. We've got Game 3 of Jake Hoper versus Julo Ninja, and that's at 12:25 a.m. Eastern Time. I can't remember which SpeedGaming channel it is, so because I can't remember, you guys better follow all the SpeedGaming channels so that you can see at 12:25 Eastern just which one of them has the match that you'd like to see. Both of those first 2 matches were very nice in that series, so definitely want to check that out. So give SpeedGaming 1 through 6 a follow.
Yeah, and I think that'll do it for us. So, yeah, extra GGs to Flipheal, and everybody out there, have a fantastic night.
Yep. Thanks again for commentating with me, Esmar. It's been a pleasure.
Likewise.